The Book of Enoch, Section 1, Chapter 1. The words of the blessing of Enoch wherewith he blessed the chosen and just, who will exist on the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and impious shall be removed. And then answered and spoke Enoch, a just man, whose eyes were opened by God, so that he saw a holy vision in the heavens, which the angel showed to me. And from them I heard everything, and I knew that I saw, but not for this generation, but for the far-off generations, which are to come. Concerning the chosen I spoke, and conversed concerning them with the Holy and Great One, who will come from his abode, the God of the world. And from there he will step on to Mount Sinai, and appear with his hosts, and appear in the strength of his power from heaven. And all will fear, and the watchers will tremble, and great fear and terror will seize them to the ends of the earth. And the exalted mountains will be shaken, and the high hills will be lowered, and will melt like wax before the flame. And the earth will be submerged, and everything that is on the earth will be destroyed. And there will be a judgment upon everything, and upon all the just. But to the just he will give peace, and will protect the chosen, and mercy will abide over them. And they will all be gods, and will be prosperous and blessed. And the light of God will shine for them. And, behold, he comes with myriads of the holy to pass judgment upon them, and will destroy the impious, and will call to account all flesh for everything the sinners and the impious have done and committed against him. Chapter 2. I observed everything that took place in the heavens, how the luminaries which are in the heavens do not depart from their paths, that each one rises and sets in order, each in its time, and they do not depart from their laws. See the earth and observe the things that are done on it, from the first to the last, how no work of God is irregular in appearing. And see the summer and the winter, how then the whole earth is full of water, and clouds and dew and rain rest over it. Chapter 3. I observed and saw how then all the trees appeared as withered, as if withered, and all their leaves are shaken off, except 14 trees, whose leaves are not shaken off, but which abide with the old from the 2 or 3 years till the new come. Chapter 4. And again I observed the days of summer, how the sun is then above it, opposite to it, but ye seek cool and shady places on account of the heat of the sun, and the earth also burns with fervent heat. But ye cannot stop on the earth or on a rock, because of their heat. chapter 5. I observed how the trees cover themselves with the green of the leaves and bear fruit. But observe ye all this, and learn how he who lives forever has made all these for you, how his works are before him in every year that comes, and all his works serve him and are not changed. But as God has ordained, so everything takes place. And see how the seas and the rivers together accomplish their work. But ye have not persevered, and have not done the commandment of the Lord, but have transgressed, and have slandered his greatness with hard words from your unclean mouths. Ye hard-hearted, you will have no peace, and therefore you will curse your days, and the years of your lives perish. The everlasting curse will increase, and ye will receive no mercy. On that day you'll give away your peace for an everlasting curse to all the just, and they will ever curse you as sinners, you together with the sinners. But for the chosen there will be light and joy and peace, and they will inherit the earth. But for you, the impious, there will be a curse. And then also wisdom will be given to the chosen, and they will all live and not continue to sin, neither through wickedness nor through pride. But they in whom there is wisdom will be humble, without continuing to sin. And they will not be punished all the days of their lives, and will not die through the plagues or judgments of wrath. But the number of the days of their lives will be completed, and their lives will become old in peace, and the years of their joy will be many in everlasting happiness and peace for all the days of their lives. Section 2, Chapter 6. And it came to pass, after the children of men had increased in those days, beautiful and comely daughters were born to them. And the angels, the sons of the heavens, saw and lusted after them, and said one to another, quote, Behold, we will choose for ourselves wives from among the children of men, and will beget for ourselves children. 3. And Samjaza, who was their leader, said to them, quote, I fear that perhaps you will not be willing to do this deed, and I alone shall suffer for this great sin. End quote. Then all answered him and said, quote, We all will swear an oath and bind ourselves mutually by a curse, that we will not give up this plan, but will make this plan a deed. End quote. Then they all swore together and bound themselves mutually by a curse. And together they were 200. And they descended on Ardis, which is the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn on it and bound themselves mutually by a curse. And these are the names of their leaders: Semyaza, who was their leader, Yerukibamel, Akibel, Tamiel, Ramuel, Danel, Ezekiel, Sarkujal, Asael, Armas, Batrael, Anani, Zakwebi, Semsavel, Sartarel, Tiorel, Jomjael, Arizjal. These are the leaders of the 200 angels, and the others all were with them. And they took unto themselves wives, chapter 7, and they took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go into them, and mix with them, and taught them charms, and conjurations, and made them acquainted with the cutting of roots and of words. And they became pregnant and brought forth great giants, whose stature was 3,000 ells. These devoured all the acquisitions of mankind, till men were unable to sustain themselves. And the giants turned themselves against mankind in order to devour them. And they began to sin against the birds, and the beasts, and against the creeping things, and the fish, and devoured their flesh among themselves, and drank the blood thereof. Then the earth complained of the unjust ones. Chapter 8. And Azazel taught mankind to make swords and knives and shields and coats of mail, and taught them to see what was behind them. And their works of art, bracelets and ornaments, and the use of rogue, and the beautifying of the eyebrows, and the dearest and choicest stones, and all colouring substances, and the metals of the earth. And there was great wickedness and much fornication, and they sinned, and all their ways were corrupt. Amazarach taught all the conjurers and root cutters. Amaros, the loosening of conjurations. Barakal, the astrologers. Kokobel, the signs. And Temiel taught astrology. And Astrodel taught the course of the moon. And in the destruction of mankind they cried aloud, and their voices reached heaven. Chapter 9. Then Michael and Gabriel and Surjan and Georgian looked down from heaven and saw the great amount of blood which had been spilled on the earth, and all the wickedness which had been committed over the earth. And they said to one another, quote, the emptied earth re-echoes the sound of their bracket, i.e. mankind's, end bracket, cries up to the gates of heaven, and now to you, O ye holy ones of heaven, cry the souls of men, saying, quote, secure us judgment before the Most High, end quote. And they spoke to their Lord, to the King, O Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, the throne of thy majesty is among all the generations of the world, and thy name holy and glorious among all the generations of the world. Thou art blessed and praised. Thou hast made all things, and all power is with thee. All things are open before thee and uncovered. And thou seest all things, and nothing can hide itself from thee. See then what Azazel has done, how he has taught all wickedness on earth, and has revealed the secrets of the world which were prepared in the heavens. And Samjaza, to whom thou hast given the power to be chief of his associates, has made known conjurations. And they have gone together to the daughters of men, and have slept with them, with those women, and have defiled themselves, and have revealed to them these sins. And the women have brought forth giants, and thereby the whole earth has been filled with blood and wickedness. And now, behold, the souls which have died cry and lament to the gates of heaven, and their groans ascend, and they are not able to escape from the wickedness which is committed on the earth. And thou knowest everything before it comes to pass, and thou knowest this and their circumstances, and yet thou dost not speak to us. What shall we therefore do in regard to this? End quote. Chapter 10. Then the Most High, the Great and Holy One, spoke and sent Arisjeljo to the son of Lamech, and said to him, quote, tell him in my name, quote, hide thyself, end quote, and reveal to him the end which is to come, for the whole earth will be destroyed, and the waters of the deluge is about to come over the whole earth, and what is upon it will be destroyed. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed remain on the whole earth. End quote. And again the Lord spoke to Raphael, quote, bind Azazel hand and foot, and put him in the darkness. Make an opening in the desert, which is in Judael, and put him there, and lay upon him rough and pointed rocks, and cover him with darkness, that he may remain there forever, and cover his face, that he may not see the light. And on the great day of judgment he will be cast into the fire. And heal the earth which the angels have defiled, and announce the healing of the earth, that I will heal it, and that not all the sons of men shall be destroyed, through the mystery of all the things which the watchers have spoken and have taught their sons. And the whole earth was defiled through the example of the deeds of Azazel. To him ascribe all the sins. And God said to Gabriel, quote, go against the bastards and those cast off, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication, and the children of the watchers from among men, lead them out, and let them loose, that they may destroy each other by murder, for their days shall not be long. And they will all supplicate thee, but their fathers will secure nothing for them, although they expect an everlasting life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. End quote. And God said to Michael, quote, announce to Semyaza and to the others who are with him, who have bound themselves to woman, to be destroyed with them in all their contamination. When all their sons shall have slain one another, they shall have seen the destruction of their beloved ones. Bind them under the hills of the earth for 70 generations, till the day of their judgment and of their end, till the last judgment has been passed for all eternity. And in those days they will be led to the abyss of fire and torture, and in prison they will be locked for all eternity. And then he will burn and be destroyed. They will be burned together from now on, to the end of all generations, and destroy all souls of lust, and the children of the watchers, because they have oppressed mankind. Destroy all oppression from the face of the earth, and all wicked deeds shall cease, and the plan of justice and righteousness shall appear, and deeds will become a blessing. Justice and righteousness will be planted in joy forever. Then all the just will bend the knee, and they will remain alive till they beget 1,000 children. And they will complete all the days of their youth, and their Sabbath in peace. And in those days the whole earth will be worked in justice, and all will be planted with trees, and will be full of blessings, and all the trees of desire will be planted on it, and vines will be planted on it. The vine planted on it will bear fruit in abundance, and of all the seeds sown on it, one measure will bear 10,000, and one measure of olives will make 10 presses of oil. And cleanse thou the earth of all oppression and all injustice, and all sin and all wickedness and all uncleanness, which are produced on the earth. Eradicate them from the earth. And all the children of men shall become just, and all the nations shall worship me as God, and bless, and all will worship me. And the earth will be cleansed of all corruption, and all sin, and all punishment, and all torment. And I will never again send a flood upon it, from generation to generation to eternity. Chapter 11. Chapter 11. And in those days I will open the storerooms of blessings which are in heaven, in order to bring them down upon the earth, upon the deeds and labour of the children of men. Peace and rectitude will become associates in all the days of the world, and in all the generations of the world. End quote. Section 3, Chapter 12. And previous to all these things, Enoch was hidden, and not one of the children of men knew where he was hidden, and where he was, and what had become of him. And all his days were with the holy ones, and with the watchers in his days. And I, Enoch, was praising the great Lord, and the King of the world. And behold, the watchers called to me, Enoch the scribe, and said to me, quote, Enoch, thou scribe of justice, go announce to the watchers of heaven who have left the high heaven and the holy eternal place, and have contaminated themselves with woman, and have done as the children of men do, and have taken to themselves wives, and are contaminated in great contamination upon the earth. But upon earth they shall have no peace, nor forgiveness of sin, for they will not enjoy their children. They will see the murder of their beloved ones, and they will lament over the destruction of their children, and will petition to eternity. But mercy and peace will not be unto them. End quote. Chapter 13. And Enoch departing said to Azazel, quote, Thou wilt have no peace, a great condemnation has come upon thee. And he, bracket, Raphael, end bracket, will bind thee, and alleviation and intercession and mercy will not be unto thee, because thou hast taught oppression, and because of all the deeds of abuse, oppression, and sin which thou hast showed to the children of men. And then going, I spoke to them all together, and they were all afraid. Fear and trembling seized them. And they asked me to write a memorial petition for them, that they thereby might attain forgiveness, and to carry their memorial petition before God into heaven. For they could not from now on speak with him, nor could they raise their eyes towards heaven from shame on account of their sins, which they were being punished. Then I wrote this memorial petition, and prayed with reference to their souls, and for each of their deeds, and for that which they had asked of me, that they thereby might obtain forgiveness and patience. And going, I sat down near the waters of Dan, which is to the right, bracket, i.e. south, end bracket, of the evening side, bracket, i.e. west, end bracket, of Hermon, and read that memorial petition till I fell asleep. And behold, a dream came to me, and visions fell upon me, and I saw the vision of chastisement to show to the sons of heaven, and to upbraid them. And having become awake, I went to them, and they were all sitting assembled, lamenting at Oblastal, which is between the Lebanon and Sinister, with their faces covered. And I relate before them all the visions that I had seen in my sleep, and commenced to speak those words of justice, and to upbraid the watchmen of heaven. Chapter 14. This writing is the word of justice and the admonition of the watchers, who are from eternity, as the Holy and Great One commanded it in this vision. I saw in my sleep what I will now relate with a tongue of flesh, and with my breath, which the Great One has given to the mouth of men, that they might converse with it, and understand it in their hearts, as he has created and given to men the power to understand the word of knowledge. Thus also he has created me, and given to me the power to upbraid the watchers, the sons of heaven. Quote, I have written your petition, and in my vision it appeared to me thus, that your petition will not be granted in all the days of the world, and that judgment has been passed over you. Nothing will be granted unto you, and from now on you will not ascend into heaven to all eternity, and upon the earth, as been decreed, they shall bind you for all the days of the world. But before this you have seen the destruction of your beloved children, and you will not be able to possess them, but they shall fall before you by the sword. Your petition for them will not be granted unto you, nor the one for yourselves. And while ye are weeping and praying, ye cannot speak a single word from that writing which I have written. End quote. And the vision appeared to me thus. Behold, clouds in the vision invited me, and a fog invited me. And the course of the stars and lightning drove and pressed me. And the winds in the vision gave me wings and drove me. And they lifted me up into heaven. And I went to approach near a wall which was built of crystals, and a ton of fire surrounded it. And it began to cause me to fear. And I went into the ton of fire, and approached near to a large house, which was built of crystals. And the walls of this house were like a floor inlaid with crystals, and the groundwork was of crystals. The ceiling was like the course of the stars and of the lightning, and cherubim of fire were between them. In their heaven was water. A flaming fire surrounded the walls, and its doors burned with fire. And I went into this house, and it was hot like fire and cold like ice, and there was nothing pleasant and no life in it. Fear covered me, and trembling seized me, and I was shaking and trembling. I fell down on my face and saw in a vision, and behold, there was a second house, larger than the other, all whose doors stood open before me, and it was built with a ton of fire, and in all things it excelled in grandeur and magnificence and size. so that I cannot describe to you its magnificence and its size. Its floor was fire, and above it was lightning, and the course of the stars, and its ceiling was also a flaming fire. And I looked and saw therein a high throne. Its appearance was like the hoar frost, and its circuit like a shining sun, and voices of the cherubim. And from under the great throne came streams of flaming fire, and it was impossible to look at it. And he who was great in majesty sat thereon, whose garment shone more brilliantly than the sun, and was whiter than any hail. None of the angels were able to enter, nor any flesh look upon the form of the face of the majestic and honoured one. A fire of flaming fire was round him, and a great fire stood before him, and none of those who were around him could approach him. 10,000 times 10,000 were before him, but he required not any holy counsel. And the holy ones who were near him did not leave day or night, nor did they depart from him. And I had so long a veil upon my face, and I trembled. And the Lord called me with his own voice, and said to me, quote, "Come hither, Enoch, into my holy word," end quote. And he caused me to arise, and I went to the door. But I bent my face downwards. And he answered and spoke to me with his word, quote, "Hear and fear not, Enoch, thou just man and scribe of justice. Approach hither and hear my words. And go, say to the watchers of heaven who have sent thee, that thou shouldest petition for them. Quote, ye should petition for men, and not men for you. Why have ye left the high, holy, and everlasting heaven, and lain with woman, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men? And taken wives unto yourselves, and acted like the children of earth, and begotten giants as sons, while ye were spiritual, holy, having eternal life. Ye defiled yourselves with woman, and with the blood of flesh have begotten children, and have lusted after the blood of men, and have produced flesh and blood as they produce, who die and are destroyed. Therefore I have given them wives, that they might impregnate them, and children be born by them, as it is done on earth. Ye were formerly spiritual, living in eternal life, without death, to all the generations of the world. Therefore I have not made for you any wives. For spiritual beings have their home in heaven, and now the giants, who have been begotten from body and flesh, will be called evil spirits on earth, and their dwelling places will be upon the earth. Evil spirits proceed from their bodies because they are created from above, their beginning and first basis being from the Holy Watchers. There will be evil spirits upon the earth and will be called evil spirits. For the spirits of heaven have their dwelling places in heaven, and the spirits of the earth, who are born of the earth, have their dwelling place on earth. And the spirits of the giants who cast themselves upon the clouds will be destroyed and fall, and will battle and cause destruction on the earth, and do evil. They will take no kind of food, nor will they become thirsty, and they will be invisible. And these spirits will not rise up against the children of men and against the woman, because they have proceeded from them in the days of murder and destruction. Chapter 16. And of the death of the giants, when the spirits have proceeded from the bodies, their flesh shall decay without judgment. And thus they shall be destroyed till that day, when the great judgment over all the great world shall be completed over the watchers and the impious. And now to the watchers who have sent thee, that thou shouldest petition for them who were formerly in heaven, say, quote, Ye have been in heaven, and though the secrets were not yet revealed to you, still ye knew illegitimate mysteries, and these ye have in the hardness of your hearts, related to the woman. And through these mysteries women and men increased wickedness over the earth. End quote. Tell them therefore, quote, Ye have no peace. End quote. Section 4, Chapter 17. And they took me to a place where there were images like flaming fire, and when they wished they appeared like men, and he led me to the place of the whirlwind, and on a hill, the point of whose summit reached to heaven, and I saw shining places, and the thunder at the ends thereof, and the depths thereof a bow of fire and arrows, and their quiver and a sword of fire and of lightning. And they took me to the so-called water of life, and to the fire of the west, which receives every setting of the sun. And I came to a river of fire, whose fire flows like water, and is emptied into a great sea, which is towards the west. And I saw all the great rivers, and came to a great darkness, and went there, where all flesh wanders. And I saw the mountains of the black clouds of winter, and the place where all the waters of the deep flow. And I saw the mouths of all the rivers of the earth, and the mouth of the deep. And I saw the repositories of all the winds, and I saw how he had ornamented all the creation, and the foundations of the earth were with them. And I saw the cornerstone of the earth, and I saw the four winds which support the earth, and the firmament of the heavens. And I saw how the winds expand the heights of the heavens, and they remained between heaven and earth, and they are pillars of heaven. And I saw the winds which turn the heavens, which lead down the course of the sun and all the stars. And I saw the winds upon the earth which carry the clouds. And I saw the paths of the angels. I saw at the end of the earth the firmament of the heavens above. And I proceeded towards the south, and it burns day and night there, where 7 hills of precious stones are, 3 towards the east, 3 towards the south. But of those towards the east, one of coloured stone, one of pearls, and one of antimony, and those towards the south of red stone. But the middle one reached up to heaven, like the throne of God, of alabaster, and the summit of the throne of sapphire. And I saw a burning fire which was in all the hills, and there I saw a place beyond the great earth, there the waters collected. And I saw a great abyss in the earth, with columns of heavenly fire, and I saw among them columns of heavenly fire, which fall and are without number, either towards the height or towards the depth. And over that abyss I saw a place which had no firmament of heavens above it, and no foundation of earth beneath it, and no water above it, and no birds upon it. It was a void place, and there I saw a terrible thing, 7 stars, like great burning mountains, and like spirits that petitioned me. The angel said, quote, "This is the place of consummation of heaven and earth. It is a prison for the stars of heaven and for the host of heaven. And the stars that roll over the fire are they who have transgressed the command of God before their rising, because they did not come forth in their time. And he was enraged at them, and bound them till the time of the consummation of their sins, in the year of the mystery." End quote. Chapter 19. And Europe said to me, quote, "Here will stand the souls of those angels who have united themselves with woman, and have assumed many different forms, have contaminated mankind, and have led them astray, so they brought offerings to the demons as to gods, namely on the day when the great judgment, on which they will be judged, shall be consummated. And the woman, having led astray the angels of heaven, will be like their friends, end quote. And I, Enoch, alone saw this vision, the ends of all, and no man has seen them as I have seen them. Chapter 20. And these are the names of the holy angels who watch. Uriel, one of the holy angels, the angel of thunder and of trembling. Raphael, one of the holy angels, the angel of the spirits of men. Raguel, one of the holy angels, who takes vengeance on the earth, and the luminaries. Michael, one of the holy angels, namely set over the best portion of men, over the people. Sarakiel, one of the holy angels, who is over the spirits of the children of men, who endures the spirits to sin. Gabriel, one of the holy angels, who is over the serpents, and over the paradise and the cherubim. Chapter 21. And I went around to a place where not one thing took place, and I saw there something terrible, no high heavens, nor founded earth, but a void place, awful and terrible. And there I saw 7 stars of heaven, tied together to it like great mountains, and flaming as if by fire. At that time I said, quote, on account of what sin are these bound? And why have they been cast hither? End quote. And then answered Uriel, one of the holy angels, who was with me, conducting me, and said to me, quote, Enoch, concerning what dost thou ask? And concerning what dost thou inquire? And ask and art anxious? These are of the stars who have transgressed the command of God, the highest, and are bound here till 10,000 worlds. The number of the days of their sins shall have been consummated. End quote. And from there I went to another place which was still more terrible than the former. And I saw a terrible thing. A great fire was there, which burned and flickered and appeared in sections. It was bounded by a complete abyss. Great columns of fire were allowed to fall into it. Its extent and size I could not see, and I was unable to see its origin. At that time I said, quote, how terrible this place is, and painful to look at, end quote. At that time answered Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me. He answered and said to me, quote, Enoch, why such fear and terror in thee